All right, so before I begin, I want to give a salute to everybody that is going to watch this video on the live, on the replay. Appreciate the support I've been getting lately. Um, you guys mean a whole lot to me, and if it's not for you, then I would not be doing this. But we're going to get into the story here out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I remember this particular case right here. This individual here is disgusting. And this dude here had no business even being a police officer and all that, right? So the individual here goes by the name of Robert Gobolski or Golubsky. That's his name, Roger Golubsky. He was the former Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, not Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. This dude was out here being accused of abusing black women. He was preying on black women, right? And this man, who was accused of misconduct, criminal behavior, and engaging in some of the grossest acts of corruption a police officer could commit, killed himself today ahead of a trial that he was supposed to be engaging in for his crimes. Now, the 71-year-old was wearing a electronic monitoring device after he failed to appear for the first day of his federal trial in Topeka, Kansas at 9 a.m. local time Monday morning. Now, the judge issued a warrant for his arrest, and it was delayed at the start of the trial. According to a statement from the Kansas Bureau of Investigations, or the KBI, Edwardsville police received a 911 call from a neighbor reporting a gunshot. When officers arrived, they located a deceased male back porch who had sustained a fatal gunshot wound, or GSW. The KBI added that there was no indications of foul play. Now, Golubsky had been confined on house arrest for 2 years. Under the conditions of his release, Golubsky was prohibited from possessing a firearm, destructive device, or any other type of weapon. The KBI said it's scheduled an autopsy and will continue to investigate. I mean, my question is, what is there to investigate? The dude killed himself. What is there to investigate? I can see that, you're trying to figure out how the hell he got the gun, but if you never took the gun from him, what's left to investigate? In my opinion, that could be the only possible thing you have to investigate. How did he get that gun? When he was told that he was supposed to have no firearm or anything of a destructive nature, and yet somehow he was able to get a firearm and blow his own head off, okay, I can see that. Outside of that, I don't know what else left to investigate. Now, at 11 a.m., the judge convened with federal prosecutors. They confirmed Golubsky had died and moved to dismiss the case, which the judge accepted. On Monday morning, Golubsky's lawyer, Chris Joseph, said the former detective was despondent about media coverage. Golubsky is accused of using the power of his badge to violate the rights of 2 women by rape, kidnapping, and sexual assault. And before we continue, I want to put out this warning. Where's the warning at? Put out this warning that the video content may be disturbing and could be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. With that, we're going to get right back to the regularly scheduled program already in progress. Now, I cannot stand when the individual goes out here, commits these acts, and then in an act of defiance, turns around and kills themselves to avoid any sense of justice. Well, guess what? You're going to face the ultimate form of justice, you dirty motherfucker. That's right. You are going to face the ultimate form of justice when your body is stiff and rotten in that goddamn ground. Rest in peace, you mother. All right, so this was the home where they found Roger Golovsky at. That's right, you fuck. You rest in piss. Rest in piss. Anyway, all right, I'm bring it down, bring the temperature down a little bit, right? Okay, now, like I said, Golovsky is accused of using the power of his badge to violate the rights of two women by rape, kidnapping, and sexual assault. He is charged under a federal statute making it a crime for government officials, including law enforcement officers, to deprive a person of federal protective civil rights. Now, he had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Now, this woman who's back in our lives again, Kristen Clark, who is the Assistant Attorney General, and U.S. Attorney Kate E. Brubaker for the District of Kansas, issued a statement in response to the news. This matter involved extremely serious charges, which is always difficult when a case is unable to be fully and fairly heard in the public trial and weighed and determined by a jury. The proceedings in this case may be over, but its lasting impact on all the individuals and families involved remains. We wish them peace and opportunity for healing as they come to terms with this development and ask that they all be treated with respect and their privacy respected. Now, Golovsky is the central subject of the KCUR's Overlook podcast, which investigated decades of corruption in Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, and the allegations against Golovsky. So this man gets to off himself, and he doesn't get to face the people who he violated. On the white side of Kansas City, Kansas, Golovsky was considered a legendary homicide detective who rose quickly through the ranks and closed cases. In the black community, he was called the Grim Reaper, the Devil, and a Snake. Once the accusations against him arose during the 2017 trial exonerating Lamonte McIntyre of a double homicide, people called Golovsky a chameleon. His victims have long feared Golovsky would die before he went to trial on a host of federal charges. There were also fears that Golovsky was released from prison and allowed to remain on house arrest while awaiting trial, even though the magistrate found the allegations shocking. In March, Golovsky was even allowed to remain on home detention despite violating his pre-trial release condition by going to a fast food restaurant. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. What's up, Alex? I'm not surprised that this man was allowed to do all this. Meanwhile, typically speaking, a black person like a Sean Diddy Combs, who will hold a freak-off party, can't even get bail because he is deemed a quote-unquote threat to the community, right? It's crazy how the two-tier justice system works. Amazing. One of the individuals came out and said this, that she was angry and hurt at the same time because none of us will be able to face our accuser, said Nico Quinn, who said she was forced to give false testimony against McIntyre. Quinn also says her sister, Stacey Quinn, had been manipulated by Golovsky beginning when she was only a teenager, part of a pattern by the detective. Nico Quinn said, with Golovsky's death, so many secrets will be buried, She and others in the community will never be able to know what happened with their loved ones. Just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So, and this the individual here recently, right? Just absolutely unacceptable from this guy. Now, inside the charges against Mr. Golovsky, right? Now, federal prosecutors charged Golovsky in September 2022 violating the civil rights of two women and possibly seven more by raping and kidnapping them. One of his victims, identified only as SK in court documents, was just 13 years old when she says Golovsky started abusing her. In November 2022, Golovsky was charged in a separate federal case with protecting Cecil Brooks, a notorious drug dealer who was running a sex trafficking operation of underage girls. Along with Brooks and two other men, Golovsky faced conspiracy, kidnapping, attempted kidnapping, aggravated sexual abuse, and attempted aggravated sexual abuse, including the involuntary servitude of two teenagers who were held captive at an apartment complex. Just absolutely unacceptable behavior from this guy. But then again, this is what happens when you let animals out of a cage. Golovsky was accused of raping one of the girls who was 16 at the time. Just abhorrent behavior from this guy. But are you surprised? You shouldn't be. Now, Golovsky pleaded not guilty to all the charges, and his attorney questioned the validity of the decades-old uncorroborated allegations. From a large, extended Kansas City, Kansas family, Golovsky first wanted to become a Catholic priest. Well, there you go, because they engage in that kind of activity also. And went to a seminary for high school. He changed his mind, graduated from the police academy in 1975, and finally retiring in 2010. The claims against Golovsky first surfaced in 2016 during the exonerations of Lamonte McIntyre, a then 16-year-old who was set up by Golovsky to take the fall for a 1994 double homicide. McIntyre spent 23 years in prison. Because I remember doing a story here about Lamonte McIntyre. This man, he was. Hold on. I'm gonna show you who Lamonte McIntyre is, right? Because I remember doing a story about this particular case, right? And I always talk about how black folks are doing time in prison, in football numbers, thanks to, or no thanks in part to, shoddy testimony, false testimony, right? Police lying on documents, bogus prosecutors, and such variations. And there's so many levels to the corruption that goes on with the justice system that really puts the black folks, right? I've done all kinds of stories about how these black men and black women doing time in football numbers, no thanks apart to this corrupt justice system, right? Like they were already guilty before they get proven innocent. So give me one. I'm gonna have a second here. We're gonna pull up who this guy is, right? Y'all gonna see firsthand. So this is the guy, Lamonte McIntyre, or Lamont McIntyre. This is the guy who spent 23 years in prison over a crime he didn't commit. Because this man who's gonna rest in piss rigged the goddamn game against this man. Absolutely disgusting. And that bastard had the nerve to take himself out of the game before he faces accountability. But don't worry, don't you worry there, motherfucker. Roger Golovsky, right? And if your family just happen to listen to my video, fuck y'all too, right? Because y'all just complicit for this bullshit, right? Y'all protected this man. Y'all defended this man. So fuck y'all too. Anybody that supports and defends this guy, fuck y'all too, right? Because this man, Mr. Lamont McIntyre, this man here did 23 years in prison over a crime he didn't commit. No thanks apart, the piece of shit like this guy. Now, he was released as an innocent man in 2017. He was exonerated. Him and his mother, Rose McIntyre, won a $12.5 million settlement against the unified government of Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas in June 2022. And although the new Wyandotte County District Attorney Mark Dupree was crucial in dropping the case against McIntyre in 2017, some of Golovsky's victims accused Dupree of being late, or okay, let me get this straight. Let me back up. Accused Dupree of later being slow to investigate cases brought by Golovsky during his years as a homicide detective. Dupree established a conviction integrity unit in 2018, but the 3 attorneys who were hired to staff it were ultimately fired for racist remarks. In November 2022, Kansas City, Kansas Police Department Chief Carl Oakman announced he was launching a review of 155 of Golovsky's cases, and Dupree got $1.7 million from the unified government to digitize the old case files. When pressed, Oakman brushed aside concerns that the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department couldn't be trusted to conduct an impartial review of Golovsky's cases, saying, "Who better to clean their own house?" But social justice activists scoffed at the internal review, calling it a major red flag. Activists have long demanded that a U.S. Department of Justice investigation into the entire department. As the case gained more attention, victims, mostly black women, started to congregate at rallies, protests, and prayer circles. In November 2023, a federal lawsuit filed by 5 black women accusing the UG, that's the unified government for those you may not be aware, of allowing dirty cops like Golovsky to sexually exploit them, run a police protection racket, and subject the black community to regular acts of humiliation and exploitation. One of the victims in the lawsuit recounted being violently assaulted by Golovsky and asking the detective why was he doing it, and he replied to them, "Because he can." You piece of shit. You need to fucking rest in piss, bitch. Absolutely disgusting. Now, I'm going to share my screen again. Share my screen, and we're going to talk about another story because there's so many layers to this story. And the problem is we're not going to get the entire story because the main character in all this bullshit is fucking dead. Because he took himself out. Chicken shit. Now, this was a chapter 3 of Overlooked. This is an investigative podcast from the KCUR. So we talk about Stacy Quinn. She was a teenager, according to her family. Local activists alleged that this was a pattern of Golovsky's girls. The detective would pick up vulnerable women in the neighborhood he patrolled, sexually abusing them for years, and manipulate them into silence. And just like Stacy Quinn, many of them were murdered. So they say she had a hard life. No other way to say it. She was born into the large extended Quinn family named Clam Park in Kansas City, Kansas in 1968. Her mommy, Josephine Quinn, suffered from mental health problems and was in and out of her daughter's lives from the time they were young. Stacey's little sister Nico, the baby of the 3 Quinn girls, smiles when she remembers their childhood. She was 4 years old, older than her, and Leela was in the middle. The girls like to pretend they were musical sister acts, just like the Jacksons, right? So this was the family, lovely family. The mom and her three baby girls, lovely family. Girls were taken in by her grandmama, Cinderella Quinn, who made sure they went to school and church. By around 16, Stacy started using drugs. She became a whole nother person, but she was the sweetest person you wanted to know when she wasn't on drugs. Nico said Stacy started with the wet or PCP, ended up on crack, partly as a way to deal with the sexual trauma she experienced during childhood. We had two uncles that, violated them when they were little. She took it the hardest to try to use to protect her and her other sister, and they used to beat her up. She tried to make a life for herself, wanted to become a nurse, and was working as a certified nursing assistant for a while. She hoped to become a licensed practical nurse, but then the drugs got better of her. When she was 15, Stacy had a son. She named him Jonelle. Jonelle remembers they used to move around a lot when he was a kid. Lots of times they would stay with the grandmother or great grandmother or with his aunties. There was especially good few years around the time Jonelle was 10. Stacy had a boyfriend named Cleveland. Jonelle never knew the boyfriend's last name, but said he was a nice guy. All lived in a big old house. They had all the video games he wanted, like a real family for a while. And then Jonelle had seen his mother riding around town with a white cop, Kansas City, Kansas Police Detective Robert Golovsky. He'd be out playing basketball, something, and she'll be like, "That's my son right there, Punky." That's what she used to call him. And he said hi, And that was the first time Jonelle saw his mother with Golovsky. Second time he was riding by, I guess he was dropping her off at grandmama's, and I'd be like right down the street playing basketball with his friends. And he would just honk his horn and wave at him. Now, Golovsky started preying on Stacy when she was about 15 to 16 years old, according to the family. Nico and her sister Leela said Stacy first crossed paths with Golovsky when she was walking home one day from work after he picked her up and raped her. He was told from his sister they started messing around. Leela said they had a relationship because she was saying that he had arrested her for prostitution back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. That's when he started putting her in jail. Maybe it was something he wanted that she wouldn't do or she wouldn't give him. And Stacy's aunt, Frida Quinn, said Stacy's involvement with Golovsky was common knowledge around the Quinns. In the 2011 affidavit, Frida Quinn said Golovsky would pick up Stacy at her mother's house, be gone a few days, and then come home with new clothes and money. Now, Golovsky, however, didn't divulge the relationship in police records, a fact that would become evident on April 15, 1994, the day of the double murder on Hutchings Street. Just absolutely disgusting, man. Absolutely disgusting. And this is the house where the alleged double murder took place. But we will never know. We will never know what happened. No thanks apart, because this dude decided that, he was going to take the easy way out. This piece of shit went ahead and took himself out of the game because he didn't want to be held accountable for his actions. Absolutely fucking disgusting. I mean, now, what gets me is that they vote blue no matter who. No, not vote blue no matter who. I'm not talking about the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the people who want you to back the badge and respect the badge, and that that badge meant something. Well, how do you explain when you get piece of shit like this running around here in your community? Your taxpayer dollars is going towards a goddamn deviant, a predator, and a goddamn mongerer. Makes no sense to me that this guy would be revered and held in high regard and given plaques and awards, and you naming hallways after this clown, you naming departments after this asshole. All the meanwhile, this man here is preying on the community for his own self-serving agenda, for his own taste of power, for his own form of street justice. Because let him tell it, he had the badge, so he got all the power. You don't got no power. You're there to serve him. You're there to do as he say, when he say it, how he says it. And that you have no right to question it, and you damn sure don't got no right to challenge it. And there's other police officers that think like him. There's other police officers running around here in today's society who act like him. And they will lie on police reports. They will work in conjunction with the prosecutors and the judges to rig the goddamn verdict in his favor. You got black folks who unfortunately will do prison time and football numbers, no things apart. The criminals like this guy. And it's absolutely unacceptable that he gets to parade around here in today's society. Well, not him. He's dead and gone now. He's going to be eaten by maggots. But I'm talking about other people who think like him, who act like him, who walk like him, who talk like him, and in some extreme cases, they look like him. You guys let me know what y'all think, man. This is the thing that really drives me crazy. We're not going to get the idea of what happened. The only glimpse of what happened we're going to get was from people who were victimized. This man blew his own fucking head off because he didn't want to face accountability, at least in the physical form. But there's a special place for hell for a piece of shit like this guy. That's right, Mr. Roger Golovsky. You blew your head off. You took yourself out the game. So guess what? There's going to be a special place in hell for you, motherfucker. Rest in peace, you piece of shit. Anyway, if you're not subscribing to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. Shouts out to the LDBC. This your man. Scream at me. Hurry!